Hey guys, Shalana here. Welcome to the Bin Zone. On today's video, we're talking about the Netflix original movie Rattlesnake. So if you have not seen it, stop the video now, go watch it, because from this moment forward, nothing but spoilers. You have been warned. Now let's dive into the plot, the theme, the ending, and the overall story of Rattlesnake. And Rattlesnake begins and it's essentially the story of a mother whose daughter got bitten by a rattlesnake, and the daughter's life ends up getting saved. However, the mother now has to repay the soul of the daughter, essentially because the daughter was saved. Her soul is now owed to the afterlife, if you will, and she has to give another soul. So the mother's given essentially three major moral choices that she has to make, and that is 1, let her daughter pass, 2, murder somebody, or 3, off herself to save her daughter, because the soul must be repaid. But before we dive too deep into the moral choices of the mother, let's take a look at the story and the theme of the snake. We know that in most religions, especially Christianity, the snake is representative of the devil, Satan, or the dark father, if you will, right? He is the form of evil. However, in this story, by the end, the snake doesn't seem particularly evil because of the way that the ending of the movie turned out. And now what I've realized is the snake is the one who bit the daughter, which started the chain of events. However, at the end, where the mother has somebody she's trying to give the soul up, and she's about to lose hope and she's about to not be able to do it because the person has the drop on her, the snake then bites the guy, and now that gives the mother an easy out to giving the soul. So why would the snake who started this chain of events also be the same snake that ends the chain of events? And that kind of reminds me of the Ouroboros. The Ouroboros is the snake eating its snake, essentially the sign of infinity, in which it's like a cycle that never ends. Therefore, the snake starting and ending the story kind of gives me that impression that it's a never-ending cycle, an infinite loop, if you will, of cause and event. Snake bite, soul must be given, because a soul must always be repaid. And we see that in this town, the mother, who seems to be going crazy, however, we the audience know she's not, as she's seeing multiple spirits and souls that were given up to the snake Ouroboros deity. And it starts to make more sense as the story goes on, especially towards the end, because at the end, when she asks the guy and his soul is given to the snake, we see that all the spirits that were in this town kind of show up in that one spot, and they seem to be trapped in the town, because at the end of the movie, when she's driving away, Billy, the guy, is right there trying to hitchhike his way out of there, and that's because he is a new soul. He's essentially the last soul that was given to the snake Ouroboros deity, Rattlesnake, and now he's trying to hitchhike his way out of town. This is very significant because, well, he just passed, so he probably doesn't know how things work. And the fact that he's hitchhiking, he's trying to leave. But we know that as we watch the movie, every soul is trapped in that town. Your soul is now trapped in this town of Tulia, and you have no way out. Therefore, it's an infinite purgatory, if you will, which makes sense that the snake is the theme or symbol or animal that was used in order to represent this movie. It's called Rattlesnake. He starts the adventure and it ends the adventure, and then it kind of cheapens the moral lesson of the main character, because let's dive into the 3 choices she has to make. Because in the first choice, she has to decide whether she wants to let her daughter die. There is a concept in philosophy known as the ethical sphere that doesn't simply deal with moral absoluteness, but fulfilling one's obligations by exacting one's duties. Now, as the mother, her duty is to protect her daughter. Therefore, her moral obligation is to not let her daughter die. So that is the first moral choice she's faced, because she saved the daughter already, and if she does nothing, the daughter will die. She could simply just say, you know what? This is too much on my soul, on my morality, the fact that I have to sacrifice somebody else, so I could leave it at that. But then she wouldn't fit in the ethical sphere of things, because her duty is to her daughter, and that is kind of why the first choice is almost a non-starter for her. And we can say there's almost a paradox to the sanctity of life, where she has to, in order to save a life, have to give up a life or sacrifice a life, which is very interesting, because this life that she wants to save is the life that she brought into the world. So therefore, her duty is to protect the life that she has brought. And she already did that, and that she's committed. She's actually committed because, you know, she caused this by saving her daughter in the first place. So it's kind of like a sphere of ethicalness, I guess. Now, keeping with the motif of the snake and religion, especially Christian religion. We know the second choice is to give up a soul and essentially murder somebody else for the sake of her daughter. And if we're following a more religious tone with this movie, that would be breaking one of the 10 commandments, which says thou shalt not kill, which is another thing that weighs heavily on her as she tries to choose her victims throughout the movie. And we see that this is weighing her soul down. This is bogging her down, because not just killing somebody, it's killing somebody for your own personal gain, an innocent person who really didn't do anything to you, even though she did find the perfect person to off. But who is she to decide who lives and who dies? That kind of supersedes her level of authority in the grand scheme of religion and all of that. So that is another interesting facet of all that, and that would fall under the corrupt standard of fairness, an eye for an eye, or in this case a soul for a soul. And the mother's action would be justified. However, justified in the mortal plane doesn't equal the spiritual plane, which is kind of a motif to this movie. Religion, Ouroboros, your soul, purgatory, all of that plays a part in this. So it supersedes the earthly realm, and we're looking at more of a theological meaning behind all of this and this moral decision. What makes this act even worse is the fact that the mother sought out a man who was abusing his woman and believed he deserved to die, despite the fact that she didn't think people deserved to be harmed earlier in the movie. That's pretty interesting how she was able to flip her moral stance in this movie, because now it benefits her greatly to go against her morality, which plays a great role in herself and her soul throughout the movie. And this movie really reflects on the fact that this movie is more so about the human condition, your soul, the innate selfishness of it all, because we try to protect what's ours and we're willing to go against God, religion, your soul, and damn ourselves in order for our own earthly greed and our own personal interest. And in this case, her daughter would be her personal interest. And the third choice, which by far to me was the most ethical and the most self-sacrificing as opposed to self-serving, would be for her to offer herself, even though that goes against the very religious tenets. But we also remember a story in the Bible where Abraham had to choose between the God and Isaac, his own son, and he had to make that tough choice and go against one of the commandments, and he was rewarded for it. And in this movie, she was rewarded for it, because throughout the entire movie, she was looking for somebody else to pawn off the responsibility of their soul for her daughters. And at the end, when she had no hope, she decided, you know what, I'm gonna do myself in, and the snake intervened, therefore showing that had she been more selfless throughout the movie, that would have happened. And that goes to show that she was able to leave the town at the end, and a lot of people who, and maybe her soul might have been saved because she didn't necessarily end the guy's life, because the snake already did that. All she did was make it faster, therefore she didn't really commit an immoral act. And that's because finally at the end, she was self-sacrificing and chose to offer herself and therefore save her daughter's soul. And the benevolent or the trickster or whatever you want to look at, this Ouroboros rattlesnake, decided that that was enough to pass a favorable judgment for her and saved her the choice of damning her own soul by murdering this guy. And that's essentially the theme of the movie. Morality and religion go hand in hand. And the movie Rattlesnake, as much of a thriller as it is, has a deeper significant meaning behind it. This movie calls into question the absoluteness of what is wrong, bad, or evil, because if killing is intrinsically wrong, bad, or evil, then what does it mean for the sanctity of life? That is a question that this movie has us pondering at the end. And at the end of the movie, as she's driving away, she's repeating the word I, it goes to show that this is a personal journey for her. While her daughter's life was at stake, it's not just her daughter's soul that was at stake. However, it was her own soul, the sanctity of life, and what does it mean to be right, wrong, self-serving, or self-sacrificing. But guys, that's just my thoughts. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of this movie. If you liked it, the themes, let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys. And if you liked the video, definitely give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you guys have not already. And until next time, binge on.